Add insult to injury. To worsen someone's already bad situation. Cancelling the project added insult to injury for the struggling team. Address, building details. To write a name and address. Each package was addressed precisely to preserve the chain of custody. Address, speak. To speak to someone or an audience. The scientist addressed the audience while outlining both the findings and their limitations. Adjacent. Next to each other. Adjacent neurons exchange signals rapidly, enabling efficient neural processing. Adolescent. A young person between being a child and an adult. The adolescent brain undergoes structural reorganization that improves cognitive control. Adverse conditions and effects impact. Things that cause problems or danger. Adverse environmental conditions reduce crop yields, although adaptive strategies can mitigate losses. Advocate, noun. Someone who supports a particular idea. She is an advocate of open science, because transparency accelerates innovation. Advocate, verb. To express support for a particular idea. Many researchers advocate renewable energy since fossil fuels increase atmospheric pollution. Affectionate. Showing that you like or love someone. Affectionate social interactions correlate with improved emotional regulation. After, named for. Given the same name as another person or thing. The constant was named after Newton, reflecting his contribution to classical mechanics. Against all the odds. Despite low probability of success. Against all the odds, the probe completed its mission despite multiple system failures. Against all the odds. Succeeding despite low probability. Against all the odds the patient recovered. Against SB's advice or wishes. Doing something despite being told not to. The trial proceeded against expert advice, although the risks were clearly stated. Age, OLD. The state of being old. Cellular age is influenced by telomere length, whereas chronological age is not always predictive. Agenda, important subjects. Important subjects to be dealt with. Climate resilience dominated the research agenda because of its global impact. Ahead, more progress. Making more progress than others. This team is ahead of competitors since it adopted machine learning earlier. Air, quality. A particular appearance or quality. The laboratory had an air of precision despite its minimal design. Alarm, worry. A sudden feeling of fear or worry. Unexpected mutation rates caused alarm among epidemiologists. Albeit. Although. The experiment succeeded, albeit with a limited sample size. Alcoholic, countable noun. Someone who regularly drinks too much alcohol and cannot stop the habit. Clinical studies show that an alcoholic may require structured intervention because dependence affects both cognition and physiology. Alcoholic, person. Regularly drinking too much alcohol and unable to stop the habit. An alcoholic individual often exhibits impaired impulse control due to long-term alterations in neural reward pathways. Alert, transitive verb. To warn someone of a possibly dangerous situation. The monitoring system alerted researchers to abnormal radiation levels before exposure limits were exceeded. Alive, continuing. Continuing to exist. The hypothesis remains alive because subsequent experiments have not yet falsified it. Alive, place. Full of activity and excitement. During peak migration season, the wetland ecosystem is alive with biological interactions. All but. Almost. The reaction all but ceased once the catalyst was removed. All shapes and sizes. Many different types of people or things. Nanoparticles occur in all shapes and sizes, which directly influences their chemical reactivity. All shapes and sizes. Many different types of people or things. Laboratory participants came in all shapes and sizes, reflecting population diversity. All shapes and sizes. Many different types of people or things. Microscopic organisms come in all shapes and sizes. All the better, easier, more exciting. Much better or easier. If the samples are automated, all the better for reducing human error. Allege, transitive verb. To state something as fact without proof. The report alleged misconduct, although no reproducible evidence was presented. Allegedly. Believed to be true but not proved. The compound allegedly improves memory, but controlled trials remain inconclusive. Alliance, countable noun. An agreement to work together. An international research alliance was formed to address climate modeling challenges. Allied. Joined by a formal agreement. Several allied institutions shared genomic data to accelerate vaccine development. Allocation, process. The act of allocating resources. Efficient allocation of funding improves long-term research productivity. Allocation, share. An amount of money, time or space given. The allocation of computing resources limited the scale of the simulation. Allow, not prevent. To not stop something from happening. The protocol allows minor deviations provided data integrity is preserved. Ally, country. A country that supports another. Each ally contributed logistical support to the joint humanitarian operation. Alone, only one. Used to emphasize only one thing. Cost alone cannot determine the feasibility of the project. Along the lines of STH. Based on and similar to. The new framework was developed along the lines of previous ecological models. Along the lines of STH. Similar to something. The proposal was designed along the lines of previous studies. Ambiguity. More than one possible meaning. Ambiguity in the questionnaire reduced the reliability of responses. Ambiguous. Having more than one possible meaning. The results were ambiguous because multiple interpretations were statistically plausible. Amend, transitive verb. To slightly change a document. The committee amended the protocol to reflect updated safety guidelines. Amid, among. Among. Amid rising temperatures, species migration patterns are shifting. An appetite for something. A strong desire for something. There is an increasing appetite for sustainable energy solutions. An authority on STH. An expert. She is widely regarded as an authority on quantum optics. An educated guess. A guess that is probably correct because you have enough knowledge. Based on previous trials, he made an educated guess about the reaction outcome. An educated guess, countable noun. A guess that is probably correct because you have enough knowledge about something. Based on the previous results, the scientist made an educated guess about the next outcome. An element of STH. A small amount of an emotion or quality. There was an element of surprise in the student's reaction to the unexpected result. An intimate knowledge understanding of STH. Knowing all facts about something or how it works. Engineers must have an intimate knowledge of the machinery to operate it safely. An invasion of privacy. Becoming involved in someone's private life without consent. Unauthorized surveillance is considered an invasion of privacy. An invasion of privacy. Interfering with someone's private life. The paparazzi's photos were considered an invasion of privacy. An isolated case event example. Something that happens only once. The lab noted an isolated case of equipment malfunction among hundreds of tests. An unknown quantity, idiom. Someone or something whose characteristics are uncertain. The effect of the new compound on cells remains an unknown quantity until tested. An unknown quantity, idiom. Someone or something that you do not know and so you cannot be certain about. The new compound remains an unknown quantity in terms of its long-term effects. An uphill battle struggles task, noun. Something that is difficult to do and needs a lot of effort. Convincing the committee to fund the research was an uphill battle. Analogous. Similar in some ways. The process is analogous to diffusion observed in physical systems. Analogy. A comparison showing similarity. An analogy between neural networks and biological neurons aids conceptual understanding. Anchor, boat, verb. To stop a boat from moving. The ship was anchored to ensure accurate seabed measurements. Anchor, boat, noun. A heavy metal object to stop a boat. The vessel deployed an anchor to maintain position during sampling. Anchor, fasten, verb. To fix firmly in place. The sensors were anchored to prevent displacement during vibration tests. Anchor, support, noun. Something that provides support. The database served as an anchor for longitudinal analysis. Animated, excitement. Showing strong interest or excitement. The discussion became animated when unexpected results were presented. Anonymous. Not giving a name. Anonymous data collection protects participant privacy in sensitive studies. Antibiotic, countable noun. A medicine that kills bacteria. An antibiotic selectively targets bacterial cells without affecting human tissue. Anticipation, waiting. Waiting with excitement. There was anticipation before the trial results were released. Anything as whatever you please. Do or have anything desired. Guests can take anything they please from the buffet. Apologetic. Showing that you are sorry. The authors issued an apologetic statement after identifying a calculation error. Appalling, shocking. Extremely unpleasant or shocking. The appalling contamination levels posed serious public health risks. Appeal, formally ask. To formally ask for a decision change. The institution appealed the ruling based on procedural inconsistencies. Applaud, praise. To approve or admire. Experts applauded the transparent data sharing policy. Application, use. A way something is used. Machine learning has broad application in medical diagnostics. Apply yourself. To work hard. Graduate students must apply themselves to master experimental design. Appointment, job. Selection for an important job. Her appointment as lead investigator strengthened the project's credibility. Appreciate, understand. To understand complexity. Policymakers must appreciate the uncertainty inherent in predictive models. Arbitrary. Not based on principles. Arbitrary thresholds can distort statistical interpretation. Arch, countable noun. A curved supporting structure. The stone arch distributes load efficiently across its supports. Arch, verb. To be curved or to make something curved. Under sustained load, the beam began to arch, redistributing stress across its structure. Arid. Very dry and lacking rain. Arid climates limit vegetation growth because water availability constrains photosynthesis. Arm, chair. The part of a chair that supports the arm. Extended arm support reduces muscular fatigue during prolonged seated work. Arm in arm. With arms gently supporting one another. Patients walked arm in arm during rehabilitation to improve balance and coordination. Armed with STH. Having useful equipment or knowledge. Armed with prior data, the team optimized the experimental design. Army, organized group. A large organized group working toward a task. An army of technicians was deployed to maintain the power grid. Around, existing. Present or available. Reliable datasets are not always around for rare medical conditions. Arouse, verb. To cause a feeling or reaction. The findings aroused interest because they challenged established assumptions. Arrival, become available. When something new becomes available. The arrival of low-cost sequencing transformed genetic research. Arrive at a conclusion. To reach a decision after discussion. After extensive analysis, the panel arrived at a consensus conclusion. Artificial, not sincere. Not genuine. Artificial enthusiasm during presentations can undermine scientific credibility. Artificial intelligence. The use of computers to perform intelligent tasks. Artificial intelligence enables pattern recognition in large clinical datasets. Artistically, technically inclined. Having natural artistic or technical ability. She is artistically inclined and can sketch detailed diagrams from memory. As it stands. In the current state. As it stands, the model cannot predict long-term outcomes reliably. As it stands. As something is now, without changes in it. As it stands, the data are inconclusive. As opposed to. Used to contrast differences. Random sampling, as opposed to convenient sampling, reduces bias. As opposed to. In contrast with. Qualitative data as opposed to quantitative data. As the name implies. Indicating meaning through the name. As the name implies, photothermal therapy relies on heat generation. As the name implies. Used to indicate that a name describes something accurately. As the name implies, nanotechnology deals with very small structures. As its name implies, transitive verb. Used to show that the name of something tells you something about it. That freeze dryer, as its name implies, removes moisture by freezing and sublimation. Ask yourself STH. To think carefully. Investigators asked themselves whether confounding variables had been overlooked. Aspiration. An ambition or goal. Scientific aspiration often drives long-term innovation. Aspire to STH. To hope to achieve. Many laboratories aspire to eliminate animal testing. Aspiring researcher. Someone seeking success. An aspiring scientist must master both theory and methodology. Assault, noun. An attack. Chemical assault on materials accelerates corrosion processes. Assault, verb. To attack violently. Reactive oxygen species assault cellular membranes. Assemble, build. To build by joining parts. Engineers assembled the prototype from modular components. Assemble, group. To gather people. Experts assembled to evaluate emerging evidence. Assembly, build. The act of building. Automated assembly improved manufacturing consistency. Assembly, group. A decision-making group. The Legislative Assembly debated bioethics regulations. Assert authority. To show power. The committee asserted authority by enforcing compliance standards. Assert yourself. To act confidently. Junior researchers must assert themselves during peer review discussions. Assertive. Confident in behavior or speech. Assertive communication improves interdisciplinary collaboration. Assign SB to STH. To give a role. Each analyst was assigned to a specific dataset. Associate with SB to spend time with. Researchers rarely associate with unverified data sources. Association, connection. A relationship between things. A strong association was observed between exposure and risk. Assume responsibility. To take control. The principal investigator assumed responsibility for data integrity. Assurance, confidence. Confidence. Quality control provides assurance of measurement accuracy. Astronomy. The study of stars and planets. Astronomy relies on observational data across electromagnetic spectra. At a disadvantage. With fewer advantages. Small laboratories are at a disadvantage without shared infrastructure. At a disadvantage. Having problems that others do not have. The new interns were at a disadvantage because they lacked prior lab experience. At a loss. Uncertain what to do. The team was at a loss when equipment failed. At a loss. Not knowing what to do. Doctors may be at a loss when symptoms do not match known diseases. At a loss for words. Unable to speak. The anomaly left investigators momentarily at a loss for words. At a loss for words. Unable to speak due to strong emotion. Scientists were at a loss for words after the unexpected discovery. At a loss for words, idiom. Not knowing what to say. He was at a loss for words after receiving the award. At any price. Whatever the cost. Scientific integrity cannot be preserved if results are pursued at any price. At any price, idiom. Do anything to get something. He wanted to win the championship at any price. At any rate. Used to state a certain fact. The hypothesis remains unproven. At any rate, further trials are required. At any rate. Used before stating one fact that is certain in an uncertain situation. At any rate, the experiment yielded some useful data. At best. Even in the most positive case. At best, the treatment offers marginal improvement. At best. Even in the most positive case. At best, the approximation holds only under linear conditions. At heart. What someone is really like. The policy appears neutral, but at heart it prioritizes economic growth over sustainability. At heart. Used to say what someone is really like. She was a scientist at heart, always curious about nature. At issue. Most important in the discussion. At issue is the reliability of the sampling method rather than the statistical model.